And there was a big post from Meghan from As Ever, you know, her weird online store where she sells mundane domestic products.
Leaks of Sarah Ferguson and her 3 a.m. Home shopping network hits where she's trying to sell you a blender that you don't need as you're trying to keep your eyes.
Is we send in ethical accountants to go into your finances so that we can make sure that all your money is above board. And guess what?
A lively discussion recently unfolded during a transatlantic television segment as commentator Kinsey Schofield joined a host to analyze the latest developments surrounding Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. What began as a casual conversation about social media quickly evolved into a broader debate about royal reputations, commercial ventures, and the potential for new revelations from within royal circles. The host opened the discussion by describing a recent post he had noticed while scrolling through Instagram. The post came from Meghan's lifestyle brand, As Ever, which has been promoting a range of home products online. According to the host, the brand recently highlighted a special promotion connected to the holy month of Ramadan. The promotional campaign included items such as luxury candles and domestic lifestyle goods sold at relatively high prices. The host suggested that some observers might view such marketing as controversial, arguing that attaching commercial promotions to a religious holiday could be interpreted as opportunistic. Kinsey Schofield responded by saying that critics have often compared such celebrity ventures to late-night home shopping promotions once associated with Sarah Ferguson, the former wife of Prince Andrew. Ferguson has long had a reputation for participating in commercial projects and media appearances to support her lifestyle and finances. However, the conversation quickly moved beyond Meghan's brand and toward a much larger development reportedly unfolding behind the scenes. According to emerging reports from U.S. publishing circles, several major publishers have allegedly approached Sarah Ferguson with lucrative offers to write a new memoir about her experiences within the British royal family. Such a project could prove highly significant. Ferguson has spent decades close to the center of royal life, witnessing numerous private moments and controversies involving multiple members of the monarchy. If she were to write a comprehensive memoir, many analysts believe it could revisit some of the most dramatic chapters in modern royal history. Among those potential topics would be the fallout surrounding the royal split commonly referred to as Megxit. That decision, announced in 2020, dramatically reshaped the relationship between Harry, Meghan, and the rest of the royal family. According to insiders cited in media reports, the possibility of a candid memoir has raised concerns among observers who believe it could introduce alternative perspectives on events that have already been heavily debated in the public sphere. Over the past several years, Harry and Meghan have shared their personal narrative through multiple media platforms, including documentaries, podcasts, and Harry's own memoir. Those projects allowed the couple to present their version of events regarding their departure from royal duties.
This is breaking
their
news,
experiences
occurring just
within
hours
the
ago
monarchy.
on this Thursday,
However,
March the 5th,
critics argue
2026.
that because most
While the
senior
mainstream
royals have largely avoided publicly responding to those claims, the narrative has remained mostly one-sided. A memoir written by someone like Sarah Ferguson could potentially add new details or differing interpretations. The host suggested that such a book would almost certainly attract massive public interest. Royal biographies and memoirs frequently become global bestsellers, particularly when they promise insider stories about one of the world's most closely watched families. As the conversation continued, both commentators agreed that if Ferguson ultimately decides to write the book, the ripple effects could reach far beyond publishing. The project could reignite debates about loyalty, secrecy, and the long-running tensions within the British royal family. And according to royal watchers, that possibility alone may already be creating a sense of unease among several key figures connected to the ongoing royal drama. As the discussion continued, the focus shifted from speculation to the deeper implications of what a potential memoir from Sarah Ferguson could actually reveal. Royal commentators have long pointed out that Ferguson has been positioned close to many of the most sensitive moments inside the modern monarchy. Because of those connections, a detailed memoir would not simply be another celebrity book. It could reopen some of the most controversial chapters involving Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. According to several royal observers, Ferguson's connection to Meghan dates back to the earliest days of Meghan's relationship with Harry. When Meghan first traveled to Britain during the early stages of their romance, insiders say Ferguson welcomed her warmly and helped introduce her to certain royal traditions and expectations. In royal circles, those early interactions are often remembered as a moment when Meghan was still learning how the institution operates behind palace walls. However, what makes this connection potentially explosive today is the possibility that Meghan may have shared personal thoughts or experiences during that period. If those private conversations were ever to become part of a memoir, they could offer a rare look into the early dynamics surrounding the couple before the tensions with the royal family became public. Commentators also point to another key element in this story: Ferguson's daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Both women have long maintained friendly relationships with Harry, even during the years when his relationship with the rest of the royal family reportedly deteriorated. Among the two sisters, Princess Eugenie in particular has often been described as one of Harry's closest relatives. Their bond reportedly remained strong even after the couple relocated to the United States. Observers have noted several moments suggesting continued contact between them, including social gatherings and public appearances. One example frequently cited by royal reporters occurred when Eugenie was spotted spending time with Harry in the United States. The meeting attracted significant attention because it suggested that despite the highly publicized tensions between Harry and other senior royals, at least some family connections remained intact. There were also reports that Eugenie and her husband had spent time visiting the Sussexes at their California residence. Such visits reinforced the perception that communication between certain family members had never completely broken down. These personal ties could become extremely relevant if Ferguson decides to write a memoir. Some royal analysts believe that even if Meghan did not directly confide in Ferguson, information could still have traveled through family conversations involving Eugenie or other relatives. In other words, Ferguson may possess a unique perspective on the complicated web of relationships that developed during the period leading up to Megxit. Another factor fueling speculation is the financial situation surrounding Ferguson herself. Over the years, she has faced repeated financial challenges and has been forced to rely on media projects, interviews, and publishing deals to maintain her lifestyle. For many observers, that history raises an obvious question. If a major publishing house offered a substantial advance for a tell-all book, would she be able to refuse? Royal analysts argue that memoirs from insiders often become powerful tools in shaping public narratives. Harry himself demonstrated this when he released his memoir Spare, which sparked worldwide debate and revealed deeply personal details about his family relationships. If Ferguson were to publish her own account, the result could be another major shift in the ongoing battle of narratives surrounding the royal family. And as commentators increasingly point out, that possibility may be precisely what has some figures connected to the Sussex story watching developments very carefully. As speculation surrounding a possible memoir from Sarah Ferguson continues to grow, royal commentators believe the stakes go far beyond simple family gossip. What makes this situation particularly sensitive
goes out of the area and they don't want him to smile. I think that's a bit sort of, you can't stop somebody smiling, and actually needs
stepping away from royal duties during the dramatic events of Megxit. The Sussexes have shared their experiences through a variety of platforms. Their story has appeared in high-profile interviews, documentary series, and perhaps most significantly in Harry's best-selling memoir Spare. Through those projects, the couple presented their personal interpretation of events inside the monarchy, from disagreements with palace officials to tensions within the royal family itself. Because the palace traditionally avoids public rebuttals, many of those claims have remained largely uncontested in the public arena. That silence, however, is precisely why the possibility of a Ferguson memoir is drawing attention from royal observers. Unlike journalists or commentators, Ferguson spent years inside the institution. As the former wife of Prince Andrew, she witnessed many of the internal dynamics that shaped the royal household during the late 20th century and early 2000s. Even after her divorce, she remained connected to the family through her daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Those long-standing connections mean Ferguson could offer insights that differ from the narratives already presented publicly. For some analysts, the real concern for the Sussex camp is not necessarily scandal, but alternative versions of events emerging. Over the past few years, Harry and Meghan's perspective has dominated much of the public conversation about the royal fallout. A new memoir from someone connected to both sides of the family could complicate that narrative. Royal commentators often describe the current situation as a battle of stories. Each side, intentionally or not, contributes to shaping public perception about what really happened during the breakdown of relations between the Sussexes and the monarchy. If Ferguson were to publish a book discussing her experiences, particularly if it touched on the early days of Harry and Meghan's relationship, it could introduce perspectives that audiences have not previously heard. Another important element involves the shifting position of Ferguson and her daughters within the royal structure itself. In recent years, the British monarchy under King Charles III has been moving toward a more streamlined model, sometimes described as a slimmed-down monarchy. That approach emphasizes fewer working royals representing the institution publicly. As a result, extended members of the royal family have found themselves increasingly distant from official roles. For figures like Ferguson, whose public identity has always been tied to the royal world, this changing structure may create pressure to pursue independent projects, including books, media appearances, or documentaries. Publishing insiders say that royal memoirs remain one of the most lucrative genres in the market. Whenever someone with genuine proximity to the monarchy decides to write about their experiences, public curiosity almost guarantees major commercial success. And that commercial reality is exactly what keeps the possibility of a Ferguson memoir alive. Because if she ultimately chooses to tell her story, the consequences would extend far beyond a single book launch. It could reopen old controversies, challenge established narratives, and once again place the complex relationships within Britain's royal family under an intense global spotlight. As discussions about a possible memoir from Sarah Ferguson continue circulating in royal circles, analysts say the real story may lie in what such a book could reveal about the fragile alliances inside the British monarchy. Over the years, Ferguson has occupied a unique and sometimes unpredictable position within the royal ecosystem, close enough to understand the internal dynamics, yet distant enough to speak more freely than most. That unusual position is why many royal commentators believe any memoir from her could carry significant weight. Unlike outsiders who speculate about palace life, Ferguson has decades of first-hand experience, beginning with her marriage to Prince Andrew in the 1980s. During that period, she was deeply embedded within the royal household and witnessed many of the traditions, pressures, and internal conflicts that define life inside the institution. Even after their divorce, Ferguson remained closely tied to the monarchy through her daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Both princesses have maintained connections with various members of the royal family, and at times they have also been seen interacting with Prince Harry following his departure from official duties. Those relationships make Ferguson's potential memoir particularly interesting for observers who have followed the long-running tensions between Harry, Meghan Markle, and the rest of the royal establishment. Since the couple stepped back from royal responsibilities during the historic moment widely referred to as Megxit, the public has heard primarily their side of the story. Their perspectives were presented through major media deals, including documentaries and Harry's memoir Spare, which detailed private family disputes and offered a deeply personal interpretation of events. However, the royal family's long-standing policy of avoiding public rebuttals has meant that alternative perspectives rarely reach the same level of attention. That dynamic could change if Ferguson were to publish her own account, because while Harry's book described certain events from his viewpoint, a memoir from Ferguson could potentially introduce other details about how those events were perceived inside different corners of the royal network. And given her connections across several branches of the family, she may have heard conversations or observed tensions that never became public. Another factor increasing speculation is the financial reality surrounding royal-adjacent figures who are no longer receiving institutional support. Over the years, Ferguson has explored numerous ventures, including books, media appearances, and charity projects, to maintain her public profile. Publishing insiders say that the demand for royal storytelling remains extremely strong, especially when the material promises previously unknown insights. A detailed memoir from someone with Ferguson's background would almost certainly attract enormous attention from publishers and readers alike. Meanwhile, the monarchy itself continues to evolve under the leadership of King Charles III, who has promoted the idea of a more streamlined royal structure. That approach focuses on a smaller group of senior working royals, representing the institution globally. For extended family members, this shift inevitably changes their role and influence within the broader royal framework. As the structure tightens, figures like Ferguson may find themselves increasingly positioned outside the official system, free to speak, but also navigating the consequences of doing so. Whether she ultimately decides to write such a book remains uncertain, but the very possibility has already triggered renewed attention on one of the most complicated chapters in modern royal history. And if that memoir ever does reach the shelves, it could once again reshape the conversation surrounding the royal family's most controversial era. As speculation continues to swirl around a possible memoir from Sarah Ferguson, royal watchers say the situation highlights a deeper issue facing the modern British monarchy: the growing tension between personal narratives and institutional silence. For years, the royal family has followed a strict communications philosophy: never publicly respond to private accusations. This approach was famously summarized by the phrase, "never complain, never explain." While this strategy helped preserve the monarchy's mystique for decades, the modern media environment has changed dramatically. Today, personal stories travel instantly through global platforms, documentaries, podcasts, and best-selling books. The most prominent example of this shift came when Prince Harry released his memoir Spare, offering a detailed and emotional account of his experiences within the royal family. The book generated massive global attention and sparked intense debate about internal royal relationships. At the center of many of those discussions was Harry's evolving relationship with his brother, Prince William, as well as the broader institutional pressures surrounding the monarchy. Since stepping away from official duties during the widely discussed Megxit, Harry and Meghan Markle have continued to share their perspective through interviews, media partnerships, and public appearances in the United States. However, the rest of the royal family, including King Charles III and senior royals, have largely maintained their tradition of silence. That silence has allowed the public conversation to be shaped largely by external commentators and independent royal biographers. This is precisely why a memoir from Sarah Ferguson could attract such enormous interest. Unlike journalists or analysts, Ferguson has personal relationships with multiple figures involved in the story. Her marriage to Prince Andrew placed her directly inside royal life for years, while her daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, remain part of the extended royal family today. Because of those connections, Ferguson occupies a rare middle ground, neither a working royal nor a complete outsider. Some analysts believe that if she were to publish a memoir, it could potentially provide insight into how different branches of the royal family experienced the dramatic events of the past decade. Others argue that Ferguson has often expressed loyalty toward the monarchy and may choose to avoid revealing sensitive details that could deepen existing divisions. Either way, the discussion surrounding her possible book reveals just how strong the public appetite remains for royal stories, particularly those that explore the private tensions behind palace walls. Meanwhile, the monarchy itself is moving forward into a new phase. Under the leadership of King Charles III, the institution is increasingly focused on modernization and a streamlined structure centered around fewer senior working royals. This evolving model may gradually reduce the public role of extended family members, making the royal household more tightly controlled and strategically focused. Yet, as history has repeatedly shown, the royal family's greatest challenges rarely come from official duties or ceremonial events. They often emerge from the personal relationships behind the scenes. Whether Sarah Ferguson ultimately decides to publish her story or not, the very possibility of such a memoir serves as a reminder that the royal narrative is far from settled. And in the age of global media, every untold story carries the potential to become the next headline.